Patrick Griffin, praise the Lord. Welcome. Glad you're here. Welcome to the conversation. It's going to be great tonight. Good evening, Mother. There's my mom, Mrs. Pearl Rouche. Hello, Mama. Glad you're there. Love you, love you, love you. Bert Wilder, good evening. How are you? Welcome to the conversation, you all. Good evening, Yolanda Bacon. How are you? Welcome. Glad you all are here for the conversation. There is my sister, Nicole. Good evening. Welcome to the conversation. All of you, welcome. Glad you are here. Hope you all are doing well. It's going to be a great conversation tonight. Good evening, Dion Wilson. How are you? I hope all is well with you and yours. Nancy Stable, good evening. How are you? Welcome, everybody. So glad y'all are here for the conversation. Do me a favor, if you all don't mind, share this on your page or text your friends and tell them to check out this conversation. It's going to be a good one. Please and thank you. It's Thursday night, y'all, and it's time for this conversation tonight. I am excited about it. So it's a couple minutes after 8. We're going to give a few more people time to come on, and then we're going to bring on our special guest. But I'm glad you all are here. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the conversation. I'm glad you're here. Chara Stevens, how are you? Welcome. Janet Scott, good evening. How are you? Hope you're doing well. Please give my regards to Mr. Scott as well. Miss Stevens, I'm glad you're doing good tonight. I hope all is well with all of you. There's my wife, Denise. How are you, sweetheart? I love you. LaDavian Clemens, how are you? I hope I said your last name right. God bless you. So glad you are here. And we will definitely pray for your family, Miss Stevens. Absolutely. Hello, Alicia. There's my sister. How are you? Kim Carson, how are you? Welcome. Glad you all are here. Hello, Sister Barbara Patterson. How are you this evening? Blessings upon all of you. And those who are not in the chat, thank you all so much for being there. Do me a favor and click like and share. Call your family, call your friends. Tell them we're about to have a great conversation. You're going to enjoy it. Sister Rita Williams, how are you? Audrey, Collie, how are you? Audrey, Beth, hope you and the family, I hope you all are doing well. Brother Patrick, yes, I did. Been speaking with your little brother and praying for your family. Yes, indeed. Still praying for you. Hope all is well. We love your father so much. Great man of God. Sister Jacqueline Bryan, how are you? I'm glad you all are here, y'all. It's about to go down. Well, welcome to the conversation tonight. I am so glad you all chose to hang out with us this evening for this conversation. I look forward to these. These are conversations have been such a blessing and so informative and such a blessing to those who join us. And I am glad you all are here and I appreciate all of you. And I see Jasmine Manning there. I'm glad you're there. And we will speak about Jasmine a little more later. But we are glad that you all are here. And I can't wait any longer. I've been excited all day long to talk to this guy. So our guest, and I'm trying to figure out now, why am I so excited? I was trying to figure out, well, I know him. He's great and doing all these things. But I was trying to think, am I excited because he's he's my big brother. We're in the same fraternity. We're in the greatest fraternity in the world. He was there first, so he's my big brother. And that is none other than Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Yes, indeed. But listen, this guy is great. And he is one of the administrative pastors at Branded Hearts, which we may talk about. But he is holding down the space in entrepreneurship, which we're going to talk about tonight. And so he is the founder and CEO of Crawl Park Capital, none other than Mr. Johnathan Manning. Would you all welcome him as he comes right now to talk to us? Johnathan, how are you?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here.
Listen, I'm excited. I'm glad you are here. And like I said, I was trying to figure out why am I so excited. I know we're in that bond, and that's something that you can't explain. You just got to be there to know what that is. We're together there. And then, of course, what you do at the church. I so appreciate you and your family. But like I said a minute ago, you're holding down that space. You're holding down this entrepreneurial space that I'm so excited about. And I want people to find out about, because what you're doing is so important and such a blessing. And this is what blessed me about you. You were saying that you want to make financial impact among families across the nation. You know, we all want to make impact, but financial impact in these days when it's so needed. And so many families have been negatively impacted over this last couple of years by COVID and so on and so forth, job loss and finances
Right.
fluctuating and so forth. But you want to come in and be a blessing to families across the nation in that regard. So listen, welcome, welcome, welcome. And I didn't want to say too much about you because I want you to tell those who don't know you. Tell us about your background. Tell us who you are. Tell us where you're from. Tell us who your people are. No, just tell us a little bit about your background.
Oh man. Well, very excited to be here, and I thank you for the warm introduction. So my name is Johnathan Manning. Actually born and raised right here in Chatham County, Thunderbolt to be exact. Graduated from Jenkins High School, best high school in Chatham County. Graduated from
Wait a
Georgia
minute.
Tech.
All
Had to
right,
give me
go
some
ahead. I'm gonna give you that
spotlight.
one.
Uh, um, yeah, graduated from Jenkins. Go Warriors. Graduated from Georgia Tech. Um, got my MBA from Georgia Southern. Worked It's an interesting kind of chain of events as far as my career path, but basically started at Georgia Tech studying civil engineering. Um, got an internship, really tutoring and mentoring in APS, Atlanta Public Schools, and fell in love with it, which is interesting because I actually went to tech in the whole technical engineering route to get away from education. My mother is a retired educator, my grandma, my aunt, my dad taught for a while. So education is something that's definitely in my blood. And I was running away from that and then wound up running right back into it. So um, Georgia Tech did not have a college of education and still doesn't. And so you can imagine being at a very technical school, but wanting to be a teacher. Instead of transferring to Georgia State, I basically took some courses in pedagogy at Georgia Tech, and then wanted to go into education. It's a long story there, but I'll kind of fast forward a little bit. And my first job, actually in education, my brother got for me. I was a sped parent at Durin, and just a rewarding but very challenging job. Um, Went on to be an SES, Supplemental Educational Services Administrator in Jasper County. Came back, worked for 21st Century Community Learning Centers as a program manager, and then went on to get into accounting and finance, program management, procurement, and then here we are managing a
Wow.
hedge fund. So
Wow.
it's an interesting route, but I appreciate the route because every stop has prepared me for where I am today. So
Right. That's good. So now tell me, so we're going to talk about hedge funds tonight, and I'm excited about this because this you about to take me to school. I don't know who else is going to go to school tonight, but I'm here to go to school, so you can help me out. So tell me about this journey. How did the journey begin to get into hedge funds?
sure. So it started. I was working for a aircraft manufacturer here in Savannah, and it's interesting that this even happened. So, because usually when I'm at work, similar to right now, I have my headphones in, I'm listening to music, listening to podcasts, and I really kind of block out my coworkers, outside world, because I'm just doing my job. And I overheard two of my coworkers saying that they were basically trading their 401k. So for those, so 401k is of course a retirement program sponsored by an employer. Where you put money in, most likely your employer matches it. You can say for retirement, and it replaces the old pension program. And so they were talking about how they were trading their 401k. And so the provider of the 401k, normally 401ks, they have limited options where, there's targeted funds where you say, I'm going to retire in this year. And then there's a fund that you put your money in, and then it auto allocates based on your age and how close you are to retirement. Sometimes you can kind of pick what you want to invest in, but sometimes for the most part, it's limited. But this provider allowed you to pick whatever stock you wanted to trade and invest in. And so that's what they were doing. They were trading our parent company. And so and they were talking about it, and they were like, yeah, they were like basically doing around 20% per year by doing that. And 2% per year is a nice number. And so me just being curious, stop what I was doing. We had a conversation, similar to this, and just wanted to learn more about what they were doing because the stock market typically returns around 10% per year since inception. But the fact that they were getting double that, I wanted to
Ooh.
understand more about that because, um, just number one, the opportunity to increase your retirement savings and possibly retire sooner. So, anything I can do to do that, I'm definitely all ears. So, had a conversation, went home that night and just doing what I do best, reading, researching, and got into day trading. What they were doing was swing trading. So whenever you open a position and then close it outside of a day, that's swing trading. That's really what they were doing. And I got into, and I realized that you could do the same thing, but do it in the same day. And that's called day trading. And if you can do it right, there's an opportunity to make substantial amount of money. So, so kind of fast forwarding through all the research, I began to day trade. Actually, sometimes while I was at work, sometimes in the evening, so on and so forth. And, I guess got to a point where I had a decent amount of success, but of course, the stock market opens at 9:30, and at 9:30, I'm at work. So there was a conflict at the beginning. So, kind of trading when I can, but kind of missing opportunities and kind of being super upset because, the markets, there are opportunities that happen every day. And if you're not there to take advantage of them, then you miss out. And for me, I felt like I was losing money those days because I couldn't take advantage of the opportunities. So fast forward, and I believe that God was calling me to quit my job to do that full time and to show people how to do it and to kind of put a spotlight on it. And that was very interesting because I had just gotten my dream job. I just got a promotion, or really two promotions, and I was getting into like program management, and I was building a program and then structuring it and running it and doing the administration for it. Very rewarding job. I was coming in early, 7 a.m., leaving at 7 p.m. Just having dreams about work. I mean, it was literally my dream job at my dream company, and God was telling me to leave. And so, just being obedient, I did that. And at first things were good, and then like things started to shift, and things were not as good. And that was basically, I would say, definitely the darkest time really in my entire life. One, because I quit the thing that I thought God was like had finally given to me, and so kind of walking away from this wonderful position, this wonderful job, having a lot of influence. That was difficult, to go from making a nice living to now not having that income. And part of it too was that God told me to do it. So the fact that if God told me to do it and it's not working out, it caused a lot of doubt in me, and I was like wondering, like, well, God, I heard you clearly. This is not part of the vision. What's going on? And it was kind of those things that I think many Christians sometimes may experience, is that when you do something that you feel led to by God and it doesn't work out the way that you intended it, there's a tendency to believe that God has basically forsaken me and just left my presence. And that was really hard because like, here I am, I've left this wonderful thing that honestly God had given me, trying to be obedient, and now my life is turned upside down. I'm married, and so it's just it's difficult to be a man and then to not have the income that you once had. The foundation of being a man, being a provider, and it's very difficult. And then my wife was pregnant at the time, and so there were fears of my son's going to be born and his dad's going to be a failure. And it was a very, very like trying moment. And even got so bad where there was a moment where I even contemplated suicide, and because it was just so much pressure of on top of that too, being a new father, and those pressures, the income and taking care of the family, and feeling like God had forsaken me and left me, and and then I had started this basically YouTube where I was showing my trades and kind of helping people And the fact that this was kind of happening publicly, being like a quote unquote public failure, all of those pressures combined was just very overwhelming. And, and so through that dark period, my wife definitely helped me out, gave me the strength to continue to persevere through it. And so I got through that dark period. And for me, I swore off trading, investing. Like, I'm done. God, I don't know why you asked me to do that, but I'm done. So I stopped doing that and actually went back to the company, and went back, not in a position that I left, but a whole different department. And that in itself was very interesting because, on the way out the door, people were, quick to say, hey, if you ever want to come back, there's always an open spot for you, so on and so forth. And then when I needed to come back, that door was very hard to open. So, it was experience, but I was able to come back in a new position, did really, really well. And like I said, I was done trading, but my wife just encouraged me to continue because, just because God said something and didn't work out doesn't mean that what he said was void. Like, he said it, it is what it is. So she continued to, encourage me to do what God had told me to do. And that led to me slowly getting back into it, because there was a time where I didn't even go in the office that I was trading. That whole room was just basically in my house condemned. Not going in there, laptop, monitors, none of that. But slowly but surely began to, open the computer, turn on the monitors, look at charts, continue to read and research. And I learned a lot. There is, you can learn by doing something well, but you learn a lot more when things don't go well. And so I learned some things to watch out for and what not to do in that season. And so when I knew that I needed to create a system that would eliminate, number one, some of the bad, just human flaws in general, but also you got to remember, it's something that I think people don't quite understand or realize when they want to get into trading or investing, but it's something that if you want to do it actively, full time, or really just in general, outside of just normal investing, there is probably no other industry that is this competitive. And when I say that, I mean that you have some of the smartest people in the world trying to make money out of the financial markets. Hedge funds, banks, these companies, these organizations, they hire the best and brightest MBAs, data scientists, quants in the world. And then on top of that, you have computers, algorithms that are, for lack of a better, word, they're smarter, they're quicker. It takes a human, a few minutes to read an article, but an algorithm can scan through keywords and send an order before you even get to the second sentence.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I realized that I was competing against basically the world's elite. And, I needed to figure out, okay, if I'm going to compete against the best, not only minds, but computers in the world, I need to figure out something that's going to give me an edge. And so started to basically take all that I learned and put it into an algorithm. An algorithm is simply it's basically a computer sequence, if you will, that says I guess a collection of if-then statements. So if this happens, do this. If that happens, do that. But it all runs simultaneously, and it's supposed to. The way that I have it written is that the markets are ever moving, ever changing. And so, like I said, humans cannot compute complex, data quicker than a computer. And so I'm basically using the computer to basically solve a math equation every day. That's
So
really
I
all
want
it is.
I want to ask you a quick question, and I should have
Sure.
asked you this first.
Okay.
Now, I want you to help us out right here. Help me out, and everybody who's listening, for the few who may not know. So you mentioned hedge fund from the beginning. So for those who don't know what a hedge fund is, tell us, what is a hedge fund?
Sure. A hedge fund, quite simply, is a very simple concept. It's basically a pool collection of money that is then invested in the financial markets. So,
Mm,
for example, let's say you and I invested $50 each. So now our quote unquote hedge fund trades $100, and that $100 generates $1,000. Then 500 would go to me, 500 would go to you. That's basically essentially what a hedge fund is.
oh man, that's a good deal. Let's do that right now. Yeah,
Definitely,
that is
definitely.
that is amazing. So people are interested in wealth building, and I think that's so important. Um, so why would hedge funds, and you may have just given us an indication as to why, but why would hedge funds be the way to go when we think in terms of wealth building?
Sure. So, and this is one of the things that, so hedge funds are definitely a way to go. And I'll speak to why it is, but also to some of the limitations of the hedge funds that it's not by hedge funds' fault, but it's really our government. So hedge funds have access to different basically asset classes. So everybody is very aware of stocks. However, there are multiple asset classes that can be traded: credit swaps, options, futures. Just to name a few, bonds. So most people may not have access to all those different asset classes. Also, too, most people and really most financial markets and the brokers allow you to make money as the market goes up, right? We've always heard, buy low, sell high. However, and this week has definitely showed that, is that markets can also go down. And so when markets go down, essentially most investors are basically on a one-way street. They only make money when the market goes up. And so when the market goes down, they're kind of trapped. And so hedge funds can also make money in any market. Market goes up, market goes down, trade sideways. A hedge fund can take advantage of all the different basically market situations. So that's essentially the quick overview, is that basically hedge funds can trade different things that normal investors cannot have access to, and also there's more variety. However, unfortunately, in America, there's a rule called the accredited investor rule, which means that an investor, in order to be an accredited investor, you must have income over, I believe, $200,000, or have assets greater than $1 million, excluding your house. And then that is basically the minimum requirement to be able to invest in a hedge fund. Unfortunately, 90% of the country are not accredited investors. And so basically, you have this fantastic wealth creation vehicle, but it's not accessible by the majority of the country.
So now I'm going to go off script for a minute because Dr. Crystal is on here tonight. We talked to her some weeks ago. She helped us in the area of health and wellness. And Dr. Crystal, how are you? But she has a question in the chat, and she's
Sure.
asking, so are hedge funds similar to a 401k? And if not, how is it different?
Got you. So hedge funds are different from a 401k, as in a 401k is a retirement plan sponsored by an employer, and a hedge fund is a private investment company. So, like I said before, in order to invest in a hedge fund, you have to be generally an accredited investor. There are hedge funds that basically apply different rules and are open to non-accredited investors. My fund is one of those. But for the most part, 99% of hedge funds, you have to be a accredited investor. 401k is a company sponsored program where, the plan kind of picks what you invest. They monitor it, and it's all, very, very, I guess, constrained as far as what you can invest in. So those are kind of the differences. So basically, a 401k is for anybody that works at a company, and their company may offer that, and a hedge fund is more of a private investment company for generally accredited investors.
Okay, and did you say the average person could not invest in a hedge fund? Is that what you said?
Unfortunately, yes, because to be a accredited investor, you have to have income greater than $200,000 or have assets greater than $1 million, excluding your home. But unfortunately, I pulled so this data comes from the census of 2010, excuse me, 2020. And yeah, 90% of the country, oh, excuse me, 90% of households are not accredited investors, unfortunately. So you basically have this wealth creation vehicle for those that are, you know, basically higher middle class to rich and wealthy.
So I want to talk about some first steps for those of us. I want to believe that everybody's on here tonight is interested in financial freedom. If I was in
I
church,
hope
I would
so.
say, "Can I get a witness financial freedom?" So tell me, what do you consider to be? How would you define financial freedom? And then tell me what are some first steps. Um, Let me ask you this. So if that gap, and I'm going to ask you about that this gap in America in a minute, but so is financial freedom attainable by the average person?
It definitely is. It definitely is. Um, I think that we hear so much about being financially free, but what does that really mean? I mean, honestly, it basically just means that you can set aside enough during your working years, so when you choose to retire, you have the funds to retire. And for every person, that looks different. Um, you know, we do counseling with investors, and there's basically three levers that you can really pull, right? You can either spend less, you can make more, or you can delay your retirement date. So those are kind of the three levers that you can really pull. And I'm a big proponent of basically increasing your income. Cutting costs, watching pennies can only get you so much. We all have to live. You know, there's a gentleman out there in the world that he talks about not buying lattes and Starbucks, stuff like that. And that's if that's something that you need to stop, by all means do that. But um, you know, not spending $5 on a cup of coffee is not going to make a dent in your retirement. I choose to look at the bigger things, right? So saving on insurance, um, redeveloping your skills to get a better job or get a promotion at work, starting a side business. Those are the bigger things that are going to have a bigger impact in your wealth than cutting $3 here or $2 there.
Right. So I have another question. In these days, you talked about the market fluctuating, and I'm thinking about inflation in America in these days. I've always heard about in different times. I'm going to date myself, but I remember hearing about inflation in the 70s, and you hear about it in the 80s, and you hear about it, and now this inflation is the topic of conversation once again. And so I'm thinking about wealth building, but um and I'm thinking I heard someone talking, and this lady said even the price of chicken is going up. I mean chicken um and then the lady that cooked oxtails, she's like, oxtails have gone through the roof. So
Yeah.
with inflation being the current condition, um how what's going to be the step to financial freedom if if I'm making more money, but as I make more money, now inflation is taking everything higher. So it seems like everything stays the same. So how do we maneuver these times in order to get ahead?
Yes, that's a great question. So I will say that number one, um, not parking your money in basically sub inflation adjusted assets, right? So we all know your savings account is not going to give you any kind of return. We all know that the market can provide returns greater than inflation. Um, but one of the asset classes that rises with inflation is real estate. So that's also an asset class that you can definitely pursue. But like I said before, I'm focusing on, and I encourage everybody else to focus on increasing um, your income, right? So we can't, um, personally, no citizen can stop inflation, and it is the silent killer of wealth. But what we can do is earn above and beyond that. And I also get into, if the listeners are interested, why we're having inflation right now. If you want to get into that.
But I had to write that down, what you just said, because you just gave me another prayer. You said inflation is the silent killer of wealth. Wow.
It is. It is.
I never heard it stated that way before. I think that's something we got some believers on here. We need to pray against inflation because anything that's coming to steal, kill, and destroy, we got to kind of we gotta pray that down. But I've never heard that inflation is the silent killer of wealth. I'm gonna remember that. Now I want to now Pastor Al Wright is on here. How are you, sir? So there are two questions on the chat here.
Mhm.
So his question is about penny stocks.
Okay.
Are penny stocks a good training tool for the novice investor?
Mm. I would say no. They are. So, for example, the lower price, I can see being attractive to a new investor. However, because, and I guess let me clarify. So, as an investor, right, not as a trader, I just want to understand the intent of Pastor Al.
Yes, his question was penny stocks a good training tool for the novice investor?
Okay, no, for the novice investor, I would say honestly, the S&P 500, the Nasdaq 100, the Russell 2000. Those are, even for experienced investors, those are going to be mainstays just because the vast majority of people, and I'm talking about greater than 90%, really 99% of people, if they're not going to take the time to do the research of the company, study financials, read press releases, comb through earnings reports every quarter, your best bet is to just stick to the broad indexes. Like I said, such as the S&P 500, the Nasdaq 100, Russell 2000. Um, if you want to get outside of that, um, I would say look at what are the top holdings in those indices. So, for example, the Nasdaq is more tech based. So you have like your Apple, your Facebook, Microsoft, um, Tesla, so on and so forth. Your S&P is basically the largest 500 companies in America. And Russell 2000 is 2,000 of the smallest companies in America. But I would just say for most people, because like I said before, you're going to be competing against the best and brightest this country has to offer. So if you're an investor, that means you're looking long term, and long term, the broad based indexes are the best.
Okay, great. So I want to get as many of these questions as I can while we have time here. So Dr. Crystal Moore Gossard has one more question here. She says, "How can
Okay,
you invest without being accredited, and where can you find guidance?"
got you. That's a great question. So there are certain portals that allow you to invest and not be an accredited investor. And then there are also certain funds that allow you to do that as well. I would say there are, and what I can do after this is that I can send her a list of basically portals that allow you to invest in different companies, right? So thankfully to President Obama, when he was in office, he signed a Jobs Act. And the Jobs Act allowed smaller companies to basically allow non-accredited investors to invest in private companies. Before you had to know somebody, you had to be in Silicon Valley, New York, or one of these places where entrepreneurship is prevalent to get into a deal before the company goes public. Most people right now, you only see a company, or you're only able to invest in a company once it goes public. But what people really don't sometimes realize is that there's a lot of value generation from when a company first began to when it goes public. And then once it goes public, yes, there may be value, but there's so much value that's already been extracted in that time period. And so the government has basically allowed that to happen. And so, like I said, I will send her that link after this. Now, anybody else who wants it too.
Oh, that is great. You're helping us tonight, Johnathan. I want to ask you another question right quick. So, and I think we were about to go down this road just a minute ago. So I want to talk about, so in America, we know in the last couple of years, we have really been brought to we've been made aware of the health gaps in America.
Right.
I'll just leave it right there. We found out there are health gaps.
Definitely.
But there are also wealth gaps that you alluded to earlier. So how can we begin? So, there have been discussion about what we can do to close health gaps in America, but what can we do to begin to shrink the wealth gap that's in America for us?
Right. I think it all begins with education. There's a book that I'm sure you love, I'm sure you've read, talks about, people suffer for lack of knowledge.
I read that in a book.
Yeah. I think it's called a Bible, something like that. But, people often say that, you can pay for knowledge or you can pay to not know. And oftentimes it's more expensive to not know something than to just pay for the knowledge or just invest. So, and I'm not saying necessarily by money, right? You can pay by spending some quality time reading. The good thing now is that we have all the information that we could ever want at our fingertips via the internet. So, right now, there is really no excuse to not know, because you can simply type in a question, honestly, how to become wealthy in Google, and I guarantee you there will be a plethora of search results.
Yeah.
So reading about how to invest, there are countless books about investing, trading, asset classes. Many of them you can find for free. If you find a book that you like, one thing that I do sometimes, because I am a resourceful person, I'll type in the book and then PDF. And sometimes you can find the PDF online. Sometimes you can find the book at your local library, live book library. But also, if reading isn't your thing, I understand that. My time in education definitely taught me that, people learn differently. And so there's YouTube. You can watch people do anything and teach you everything.
Somebody is talking about it.
Yes, somebody's talking about it. So if reading isn't your thing, if watching a video isn't your thing either, there's podcasts. You can be driving at work, anything, and listen to a podcast, in your spare time. So there is, for every learning style, there's something out there that can help you. And so I would say education. And it's okay to not know something. I think I kind of think back to being in class, and some people may be afraid to ask questions, or for fear of not knowing. But honestly, what would you rather be? Someone to assume, that, oh, you don't know something, and they may think of you one way, or asking a question and learning that, and then bettering your life because of it. Um, I can honestly say that because I was curious, did some research, talked to people, my family is on a different trajectory right now because of that. And I cannot stress that reading, educating yourself is one of the best things anybody can do to provide generational wealth for them and their family. So,
Absolutely. So, Minister Tiny Seaborough is on here. Hello from Seaborough Enterprises and all these things. I appreciate all of you entrepreneurs that's on here, but she has a question. She says,
sure.
if you're a nonprofit, how do you invest to set up a rainy day fund?
Mm. So I'm assuming she wants the nonprofit to have a rainy day fund, right? Or the
Yes,
operator of a nonprofit.
I believe that's what she's saying. Yes.
Okay. All right.
If you're a nonprofit, yes.
Okay. Right. So nonprofits can also invest. And actually, so I'll kind of tackle this from two different angles. So the nonprofit can invest. Nonprofits invest actually sometimes in hedge funds. They can invest in really any asset class that they deem necessary as far as their charter is concerned. And then as an entrepreneur, or maybe somebody who is the owner of a nonprofit, or any business, um, there are special 401ks for entrepreneurs. One that comes to mind right now is called a solo 401k. And so a traditional 401k offered through an employer, the max contributions per year is $6,000. If you're greater than 50, then I think there's a catch up, and I believe that catch up is, well, I believe the max is like 22,000. But if you're an entrepreneur and maybe you own a nonprofit or founded a nonprofit, as a solo entrepreneur, you can actually have access to save up to $58,000 per year in a
Mm.
solo 401k. So there's a big difference between traditional 401k and if you're an entrepreneur, solo 401k. So
Oh,
I would
wow.
say definitely those two options are definitely available.
That is great. Yolanda wants to ask you a question about those books you mentioned. What are some of the
Okay.
best books you've read on day trading and swing
Mm.
trading?
So there was actually one on my phone. It's called The Intelligent Investor. That's a really good one. Um, and
Intelligent
then
Investment.
yes, yes.
Okay.
My phone is not near me, but I believe it's Benjamin Graham is the author. Um, and then I'll really start there, and then there's another one too that I've read that I can't remember the author name right now, but it's basically all about day trading, and so it talks about really all of the fundamentals, right? About risk, performance analysis, and all those different things. And so I can definitely send whoever asked that question my list of books too. That you
Okay.
know, but I would say definitely starting with The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. That's the main one that comes to mind right now. There's so many, but that's a really good one. And then I mean, well, yeah. Also, too, Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's also a great book as well. It talks about the four quadrants and talks about how most people are in quadrant one. They're working, and it really just gets you in the mindset of you know being an entrepreneur, owning a business, um, and just gives you really opens your mind about really all the possibilities that sometimes are not covered in school.
That is great. And Minister Tiny said that's a great book that you mentioned as well. So now I want to ask you a question. There are some people who want some money right now.
Right, right.
Some
We
want it
all
right
want
now,
money,
and
right?
then some want money for their generational wealth for their children and their children's children.
Right.
So would you speak to both of those people right quick? The one who says, listen here, I need to flip some cash right now. When you were talking about getting 50 and making 100 right quick, how can I do that? But then on the other hand, what can a person do who wants to create generational wealth, um, and set this up for the future?
Right. Well, okay. So for the short term person who wants cash immediately, um, I would say find out what your gift is. What do you love to do? What do you do better than most people? And then use that to start a business.
Mm.
I think investing in yourself is definitely where you're going to get the most return on your investment. And so do that. And there are multiple things that you can do. If cook better than anybody else that you make cakes. Um, you know, there's for every thing that you like, there is somebody willing to pay for it, to pay to get it, pay to hear about it, pay to see it. Um, and so there's a market there, and everybody has a gift for the marketplace in them. So you find out what that is, put it out there. I guarantee you, uh, money will be coming your way immediately. Um,
Oh my goodness. See, that stirs me up right there. I'm gonna let you talk because we only have about 10 more minutes. But that
okay.
blesses me because you just said something. Every one of us,
Mhm.
God created every one of us with a gift or a talent that we could trade to
Right.
cause income to come into our hands. That's awesome. I hope somebody heard that tonight. There's some people think I have no gift and I have no talent, but God gave every one of us something. We just have to figure out what that is
Every
and
one of
then
us, definitely.
market it. But anyway, go ahead and talk. I just, you got me right there. That blesses me.
Amen. Amen. And then for the one that's looking for long term, um, number one, I would say number one, educate yourself, read. Financial markets are definitely a place that can provide generational wealth. But my thing is generational wealth. Some people they look at the financial markets, and yes, you can make money quickly, but those that go slowly are the best, are the most successful. Um, the best way to make a lot of money quickly is to go slow. Um, and so, what you need to do is educate yourself. One thing that you can do is what people don't really may not know is that you can demo trade, which means you can trade or invest with fake money first. And so um, sometimes you can get out there and you want to use real money, but if you don't have the skill set, the knowledge base to do that, then personally it would be prudent to try to experiment with fake money, right? And that way, once you do have your expertise in that area, then you can move to real money. Um, one of the things that people always say is that practice makes perfect, but it just really just makes repetition. And if you're starting with real money, most likely you're going to lose that money at first. And so by the time you figure it out, you may not have enough capital to actually invest. So, um, and then really just getting, like I said before, S&P 500 for 99% of people, S&P 500, the Nasdaq 100, the Russell 2000 are going to be your mainstay. You can look in those indices and figure out, what are the different holdings of the indices, but sticking with those are going to be your best bet. Um, and then really just getting into making sure you have a good foundation. Um, there's a phrase that says the best time to plant a tree is 10 years ago. Second best time is right now. So, for those that, maybe even older in age or even those that are really interested in getting into it, start now, right? So, setting up, good habits, so good spending habits. Probably the best thing to do is get a budget, getting your finances in order, and then honestly have a plan. So one thing that I always talk about is we talk about financial freedom, we talked about earlier, but figuring out what your number is, right? What is your freedom number? And then once you figure out what your freedom number is, that makes a lot of the situations and decisions that you have to make a lot easier, right? If you know where you're going,
Hold on a second.
right?
What do you mean by freedom number? You
So
said
your
know
freedom
your
number,
freedom number.
right? So your freedom number is your financial independence number. So financial independence is for me the the point where I can retire and not have to actively work. And most people need a certain amount of savings to do that. And so your financial independence number, your freedom number, is that number, right? Whether it's a million, 6 million, 20 million, whatever it is, I encourage people to figure that out. And the way you figure it out is super simple, right? You take how much you spend in a year, and not to be morbid, but you figure out, you know, the average lifespan of a person. In America, the average lifespan is 78.5 to 80 years old. Um, and you figure out, okay, if, if it costs me, just for round numbers, if it costs me, $100,000 to live, and I'm going to retire at 60, 60 minus 80 is 20 years. You can do the math and figure out, 20 years times $100,000 is 2 million.
Yeah.
So and that is really a good starting point. Is that knowing is like I said, it's much easier to figure out how to get a place if you know where you're going. So if you know you need X amount of money, start making those investments now, and I promise you, it'll get you there a lot quicker than just kind of haphazardly going through life, and not knowing what your goals are, what you're aiming at.
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that, because the one question I wanted to get in before we get out of here is for the person like me. I'm over 50, and there may be some here. I know there's some younger, but there's some, maybe someone else here over 50 listening. And let's just say a person is hearing this for the first time tonight. They're over 50. Can a person my age achieve the retirement they want? Is it
Definitely.
possible?
It's definitely possible. It's definitely possible. And I'm going to be upfront, honest, because like I said, I like to give people the truth. Um, it will be, if you're starting at 50, it will be more difficult, right? Because one of the, I think, believe is the eighth wonder of the world is compound returns or compound interest. And so, um, letting your retirement and your savings build up over a long period of time, um, allows a snowball effect to occur. So doing it at a later age is more difficult, but it is possible. It just means that you have to be more aggressive in your saving, and and just being realistic about, okay, where you are in life, kind of lifestyle you want to have, and then setting out a goal to get there. And so, like I said, if anybody's interested, I'm happy to help, kind of help them and guide them along that path, because I love doing that. I love helping people. I love um, helping people figure out what they want out of life, and then as it relates to finances, and also too, building generational wealth. That is something that it's been kind of a catchphrase and a buzzword recently, but um, I like to get into the nuts and bolts of, okay, yes, you say you want to be financially free, but like, what does that mean? To one of our investors, that means, slowing down buying wigs, and nails. To other investors, it means starting that business. And it just, whatever it is, getting into the meat of it and figuring out, okay, this is your lifestyle, this is what you want. Let's figure out a way to get you there.
That's great. So we're coming up on our last couple of minutes here. So I wanted to ask you about Craw Park Capital. So you've told us a whole lot, and so just say someone is interested in you helping us. What through Craw Park Capital? What do you offer? What do you offer? And what could we look to find if we sought you out for financial assistance?
Sure. So, corporate capital is a hedge fund based on three principles: integrity, transparency, and results. And so, if you're interested in, number one, saving for retirement, creating generational wealth, then this fund allows you to do that. So I can tell you that we've had a very successful year. We're in the middle of transitioning into a new fund at the moment, but we have basically allowed people to cut 5, 10, 15 years off their retirement age based on the returns that my fund has been able to generate. And so if you're interested in that, of course, you can contact me and I'll, it's my name, Johnathan at croppartcapital.com. And that's really it. And even if you're not interested in, investing with my company, I'm happy to help anybody. I said before, figure out what your freedom number is, right? And that's totally free. And it's just basically allowing people to really get a good understanding of their financial picture. I think having information and clarity can only make decisions that we make a lot easier. And I'm happy to help anybody along that journey. So.
Wow, that is awesome. So I just want to repeat what you said. Anybody who's interested in contacting you, you can be contacted at Johnathan at crawpartcapital.com.
That's correct.
Well, listen, this has been awesome tonight. I appreciate you, CEO and founder of Crawpark Capital, Johnathan Manning. I think you are amazing. I think what you are doing is such a blessing. And I bid you Godspeed in your business and your entrepreneurial pursuits as you have sought to help all of us find financial freedom in terms of what you do. So I appreciate you for having this conversation. It's been enlightening. It's been enjoyable. I have learned a lot. You've given me another book to read, as if I don't have enough books already that I'm going through. But I think this is worth the read. You caught me when you said either we pay to know or we pay when we don't know. I think this you said something like that. It costs to know or it costs if we don't know, something like that. Anyway, I thought I need to do a little bit more research. And so I thank you for tonight. And I pray God's blessing upon you and your family and your business. And thank you for having this conversation, Johnathan Manning. And you all heard how to find him. Once again, Johnathan at crawpartcapital.com.
That's correct. Thank you so much, Brad. I really do appreciate the opportunity.
Wow, thank you. This was amazing tonight. I appreciate it. And those of you who saw this, this will be on Facebook for playback. You can play it back again. You can share it, get some information right here. But this was so great. And all of you that are on here, Branded Hearts Nation, our 5 Minutes with the Father family, other guests and friends that are on here, we appreciate you for hanging out with us during this conversation. And we will do one of these again. But it's been a great night. I call you blessed and highly favored. And Johnathan, thank you once again. And
thank you so much.
I bid all of you a great night and God bless you. Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.